we're gonna go over what Gnar is building. Because I have, opinions. Opinions that I think will be correct unless they change item. So for the damage build, since that's where we're gonna start, I was known for, very roughly known for building Trinity Force. And Trinity Force is still, I think, the best thing. You can't build Leandries with it, which kinda sucks, but they buffed this item to be way more ridiculous. It gives less health, more attack speed, and less CDR. And you don't care about the CDR or health. And they buffed the movement speed on it, and then gave it base AD. So you could get 33 base AD from this item if you stack it up. Which is fucking ridiculous. It's not hard to build up at all, and it makes you even better at kiting than it did before. Mega Gnar still hits the hardest out of any champion with Sheen, and it's even better because this gives a fuckload of base AD. 658 in one hit. An important note with it too is that the parts got better. Phage no longer has mana. Who the fuck cares? It's just a cheaper Sheen now. It's the same effect. Kadachi is what old Phage was, but instead of health it has attack speed. I like this a lot more, but it kind of was a nerf because the movement speed is worse and the health was still valuable. So it's fine. When you get this in lane, it's really good. And then Kindle Gem. Whatever. All these parts are good, and these two parts will be important later. Sheen and Kindle Gem. But that's Trinity Force. After Trinity Force, you would build different damage items. Unfortunately, they nerfed Blade. Blade no longer has an active. You have to hit someone 3 times to proc it. And it comes up faster, which is fine, but I don't think we're building Blade anymore. Wits End they also nerfed, for some fucking reason. It does more damage and gives movement speed now. With Trinity Force you don't need this at all. It gives less MR and it doesn't heal you too. There's no reason to build this anymore. Trash. Death Stance. Death Stance also got nerfed. Fantastic. This no longer has healing on it, nor does it have magic resist, which is fucking fantastic. You have to get takedowns to heal, is what Death Stance is now. Which is fine. If you're fed, this can be a good choice. But that's about it. It doesn't heal you anymore, so what's the point? And so now, we're on to the last one, which is Black Cleaver. You built Black Cleaver to get 40% CDR, and if you wanted both items. The problem was that you were stacking Phage passive. So you were stacking Phage passive, and you also didn't need 40% CDR. Those were the two problems, and both of those problems are gone. Black Cleaver gives less health, more ability haste, because why the fuck not, and the same AD. It still has Shred, goes up to 24%, but then they added something. Your damaging abilities and attacks against enemies you fully shredded deal physical damage equal to 5% of their missing health. It turns everything into an execute. So if I fully stack Shred on a dummy with no fucking health, the Boomerang does 455, which is 33 more damage. That's fine. This thing has no armor, keep that in mind. You go Trinity Force Black Cleaver, you get 40... My ability haste isn't even fucking updated, but you get 35 ability haste, which is fine. That's like 25 CDR previous. And so it's like nothing changed. You're not stacking any passives. Black Cleaver builds out of really good items, in my opinion. Both items have CDR. And so now you could shred tanks while also kiting them. You do a lot of fucking damage. And so after this is the hard part, because there's a lot of options. If you're ahead, you have 2 options. Ahead means you can go Death Stance, because that means kills heal you. Death Stance is fucking cracked if you could pull this off. On top of that, you also have Guinsoos. Guinsoos is really fucking interesting, because, they removed all the bad parts of this item on Gnar. It has crit chance, but the crit chance is on the passive. Attacks deal 40 magic damage on hit per crit chance you build. Every third attack applies on hit effects twice. You don't have to build it up anymore. That's the important part. You just get the effect. And the fact that there's no build up is fucking insane. There's two more important things to this also. It lets you build crit items. So, Gnar doesn't use crit very well, but you could build Essence River now. Although, it gives a lot more mana, you're kinda trolling. You could build Quick Blade now, which we'll talk about later. You could build run-ins now. All of these are options because you're removing the crit. And we'll get into these later. So yeah, Guinsoos instantly being up. Very good. And this is where Sterak comes in. They've changed Sterak to work on ranged, which is fucking disgusting. Now I can talk about how they changed Phage too. After you deal physical damage to a champion, you restore health over time. This is Phage. This is a good item. This is fine to build by itself. Sterak takes Rage to 5 stacks. After dealing or taking damage, restore 25 health for 6 seconds. And it refreshes per unique champion. So up to 5 times per unique. I could only get it to 4, because there's 4 dummies. It's actually really easy to build this up over time. Hitting all of the enemy champions or getting hit by all the enemy champions is super easy. Upon taking damage to 30%, which they changed this, gain a shield based off your rage. And this is really fucking good. I'll probably have a clip of this from another game that I'll add here. But this shield is actually massive. The more rage stacks you have, the bigger the shield is. That's the important part. And you don't have to take a threshold of damage. Like old Sterak was take 2000 damage and then it gave you the shield. This one's just drop low, which is not bad at all. So if you're going for tank, I think you just rush Sterak, because it's fine. And then we get into tank items, which I want to talk about with the tank build. So, you're fucking trolling if you think it's Frostfire Gauntlet. It's basically the main takeaway here. Frostfire Gauntlet is Iceborne Gauntlet, but every 4 seconds, this happens. You don't have to use an ability for this. And it stays there and slows. In theory, this is really good for Gnar, because this is your beloved frozen mallet that's left you for so long. The problem is, you can't control when this goes off. This works on fucking towers, for some reason. Like, you have no fucking options here when this goes off. It has Immolate on it, which historically Gnar doesn't build Sunfire because, fun fact, he can't proc Immolate that easily. And then the mythic passive is it grants all other legendary items health and size. So if I buy fucking... wow.
Damn. Damn, boy.
This is actually bad for you. As much as you would think being a big Gnar is funny. Most of the time, you are sitting behind your team at 95 rage waiting to go in. And so, being larger in mini is actually a downside, even though this is very funny. So, instead of Frostfire Gauntlet, we have a different option. And that option is Divine Devour. And that's why I said take note of the 2 items Trinity Force builds out of. Divine Devour pivots from Trinity Force, so that if you start getting your ass kicked with this build, you can swap over and buy Phage. Once again, all 3 parts here are really fucking good. Like, these components are great in lane. Divine Devour gives the same stats as old Black Cleaver. 400 health, 40 AD, 20 CDR. And it's just buffed Sheen. After using an ability, your next attack does physical damage equal to their health with minimum damage, because squishies. If the target was a champion, you heal. This shit is really fucking good. Because this is what Black Cleaver accomplished previous. It shreds tanks and gives you the damage output you need while also giving tank stats. The one downside to this item is the armor pen, which I hope they remove because it sucks that it's here. It really does. On top of Divine Devourer, you're gonna buy Steraks. And so now you have the healing from Steraks and the healing from Divine Devourer every time you proc Sheen. Gnar is not a champion that heals a lot. Nobody builds executioners against Gnar. And so they're not going to expect you to heal this much with Fleet Footwork plus this item. Like, you could see every time I proc Sheen and Fleet Footwork, I gain a big ass chunk of health. So this build makes you have to, or makes the enemies have to build heal reduction against you, which can be very important. And so on top of this, if you have the option, you build Spirit Visage, because this is cheap. Cheap as fuck, actually. And it increases healing and shielding now. So now you're getting the idea of the synergy with Steraks too. And so this is what I think the build will be. Because I feel like Gnar can become a fucking regen tank. Lots of health, lots of healing, lots of kiting, percent health damage on 2 sources. But the problem with this build, like I mentioned earlier, is that the tank items suck dick. Like, actually. Randuin's gives 80 armor, but the active you have to land to get the effect. It reduces their attack damage by 10% and crits, like it did usually. But you have to land this. For only 4 seconds, you're lowering crits and damage. Deadman's, if you were building this before, you're trolling. If you're building it now, you're trolling. That's the story of Deadman's. While moving, you build up stacks of momentum up to 60 movement speed. Attacks deal 1 magic damage per stack. Gnar's usual trading pattern is this. So if you'll notice the magic damage my autos are doing, it's like 3. The amount of stacks I'm getting on this item is not enough to justify having it. You could build Abyssal Mask. When you immobilize something, you reduce their armor and MR. But Gnar doesn't immobilize enough. And so I think you're stuck with going Gargoyles. Gargoyles is 60 armor, 60 MR, more ability haste, which is pointless. It's actually missing the active. But I know what the active is, so that's fine. Increase your armor and MR by 3 for 6 seconds when someone deals damage to you. Stacks once per champion. This is very similar to Steraks. So when 4 people hit me, I would get fucking 12 armor and magic resist on top of the 60. The active is gain half your health as a shield. This is the important part. Because this shit is beefy. So I think this is fine. On top of Steraks with the shield bonus, it's a lot of survivability, but I don't think you prioritize this, because these defenses aren't good. And then after that, you just fucking not that. You grab Ormogs. And so this is your build. The heal tank build. Hey, you made it to the end of my rambling. Congrats. I will be uploading a video of both of these builds soon, so you'll be able to see them in action. I mentioned that I'd talk about other mythic items and crit items in this video, but it's already 15 fucking minutes long. If you disagree or have any ideas for other things to try, please leave them in the comments, because I would also like to know if I missed anything. Thanks for watching, see you around.